America.
Hi, I'm Norman Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me each week at this time as we explore places to go and things to do. We're doing a little exploring at a favorite museum of mine. The Katona Museum has a wonderful exhibit right now. It's called At Home with Art, and you'll find out exactly what that means in just a few moments, because my guests today are the director of the museum, George King, and the head docent, Patricia Grabel. And I'm so glad that you both could come here and talk to us about what this means, at home with art. It's someone described it in one of the catalogs as a new way of looking at art. And what does that mean? What's unique about this exhibit?
Well, first of all, I think I should explain, Norman, that the whole exhibition is about American interiors. There are 44 different paintings. They're all very rich in color and in the information they give us. And what makes it unique, or what makes it, as we say, a landmark show, is that within each painting, there are paintings displayed on the walls.
Paintings within paintings.
Paintings within paintings.
You use the term landmark show, and I've seen that in some of them too. What do you mean by a landmark show?
What we mean is, to our knowledge, this thrust of having paintings within paintings that tell us about differences in taste regarding collecting, buying and displaying art within the home has never been done before.
And what this show does is look at, as you said, the paintings within the paintings, not so much as looking at the decorative arts of the furniture. There have been exhibitions done in the past that have looked at interiors, American or otherwise, and they've examined really the furniture and the decorative arts, but not focused as heavily as we have on the art that was purchased or owned or displayed in these different images.
It's a good word, unique, when we're talking about the Katona Museum. I said at the beginning of the show that it's a favorite of mine. It's a favorite for many reasons. One, because it's absolutely the right size. And second of all, that I'm sure that my viewers will appreciate that it's free. Although people do fill that little
we have a contribution role.
Once in a while.
We're free, but everybody who comes, as any other institution, cultural institution, we are struggling to raise funds, and it's difficult to do that in a competitive in the world today. As you know, I don't have to tell you that, but we like to think that we're accessible to all, and our admission-free policy is something we're very proud of and work very hard towards. But nevertheless, people do contribute. They come in, and we welcome that, of course.
And maybe not unique, but certainly different than the concept of a lot of other museums, because it is not a museum that has a collection.
That's right. We're non-collecting. That means we don't own art. It's in our bylaws, not to own art, and we don't want to. People have asked me, well, in the future, will you ever own a collection? And I've said no, but unless someone comes along with an unbelievable collection and endows us to take care of it and to build a museum for it. But otherwise, we're happy doing what we were doing, and I think we're successful at it because it permits us to have a very broad variety of exhibitions that focus on a number of different topics, historical and contemporary, and from the various continents. So that's, I think it keeps our museum active.
But one of the things that you do is some of the things that start here go on, maybe not in exactly the same form. We were talking about the Florence Stettheimer exhibit, which I first saw and did a program on when you had it, and then the Whitney did it 2 years later.
Well, that's some shows we do travel to other museums. In that case, the Florence Stettheimer show, we did at the museum, and then the same curator co-curated a larger exhibition which the Whitney could accommodate, and 2 years later. So, and it's happened in the past before when we've had an exhibition. It's been very concise, very focused, and another institution, bigger institution, has taken it upon themselves to do a broader show. And so many times where I suppose you could say we're the seed for an idea, and others take it upon themselves to carry it out.
Pat, when I introduced you, I said you were the head docent, and maybe you ought to clarify what a docent does. A docent doesn't do, maybe.
Well, what a docent does, first of all, the word, it's a strange word, and it's from the Latin docare, to lead or guide. And that's really what we do. And I always tell the docents our main job is to entertain, enlighten, and educate. So we try to bring a show to life, because if you just look at a painting and just read the label on the wall, that doesn't give you as much information as someone who's really studied up on the show might have.
When I go to the Katona Museum, I try to get there at 2:30 in the afternoon, because I know that is the time that the docent tours
That's right. We have those tours every day.
Every day.
Monday when we're closed.
And it's just great. You're absolutely right. It just brings everything to life. You can walk around and you could read the labels. You could read the catalog. But something is added. It must take an awful lot of research in order to lay out what the docents are going to say and then to train them.
Yes, well, as a trainer, and I don't train the docents for every exhibition, but I do for a number, including this one, I spend about 6 months researching every aspect of this show. So I would read the curator's essay. I read about 24 other books. I looked at the art. I looked at the art within the art. I looked at the furniture and the furnishings, and also studied a bit about the differences in women's roles during the period 1780 to 1920.
We're going to, in a little while, start to look at some of the paintings themselves and talk about them specifically. But overall, what does it consist of? How many, and who are the painters, and what was the period that it was done?
It consists of 44 paintings by about 37 different artists. Most of them were very well known in their day. Few of them are still well known today. And it also, we also have an exhibition of photographs. Some of them are from artistic homes of the Gilded Age, and others are from more ordinary homes. And we have three-dimensional easels.
Easels, that was a thing that intrigued me when I saw it. People really displayed art not only on their walls, but on decorative easels.
Easels became a piece of furniture, actually, yes. And two of our easels are in the style of Charles Eastlake, who was the furniture missionary of the day. And one of the easels was produced by Herter Brothers, who were the best-known name of cabinet makers, actually, of the day.
The placement of them, are the paintings in sequence in the exhibit?
More or less in chronological order, more or less.
How do you determine when you're putting an exhibit together? How do you determine what's going to go there? In many cases, you do separate. You have two large rooms that you exhibit in, plus the outside sculpture area, the garden. But how do you determine generally what's going to go where and how it's going to go?
I think ultimately we work from a center and go out. We work from the idea of the exhibition and what idea we want to convey, and how can we best and effectively and coherently and cohesively do that. So we have a curator who's an expert in this particular subject, and he or she has an idea, and we get the works of art together. And then there is a team of people that works on the display of how we're going to organize a show, including the curator. In addition to the curator is the exhibition designer, whose job it is to design the exhibition. There is also the Pat, who's the head of the docents, and the head of education as well. So to best determine how a flow of group of children or adults and can operate around the rooms, can go around the rooms when there are group tours. And then there are some other people, but primarily that is how we do it. And we want to make the installation exciting visually. And so we, for this particular show, we have painted each gallery in a color of the day, put up a chair rail, put up a curtain on a window, and so given it a suggestion of the period, because the building is a modern, contemporary building, yet the rooms have lent themselves very well to these paintings. And so we want to make it visually exciting when someone walks into the gallery before they begin, and appealing and inviting before they look at the art.
When you walk in, I like the way you use that center hall to kind of establish the tone overall of what the exhibit is. And I know that the labels, the things that people read, are very, very important for those who want to read them.
Yes.
That must be an art, the art of, I mean, it's very concise writing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It has to be.
Too concise
Yeah,
sometimes.
it has to be. I mean, it depends on the philosophy. Because we're an educational institution, you know, as any museum is, we want to make sure that we're giving enough information as concisely as possible so that people don't forget to look at the art. After all, it's a visual experience. Yet some people, some visitors need that sort of help, extra help to guide them in or through the painting or to point out certain facts or visual details about the painting. But it is an art, and certainly like anything, some of it, some people do it well, some institutions do it well, some people don't do it well. But we try to be as concise as possible.
And the catalog, of course, which you have published for this, is for those who want to go into depth and get reproductions, which we're going to show, actually, the ones we're going to show today, do come right out of the catalog. And there you get into a lot of depth. Here's a question that I've always wondered about, because I've seen a lot of shows, a lot of exhibits, and a lot of catalogs. Is it better to read the catalog first or to read it afterwards, or during? You can't read it during, actually.
I depend. I mean, I've done it both ways. It depends if I have the catalog before I go see the exhibition. Normally, I read it afterwards, only because I've gone to see the show, and if I like the exhibition, I'll buy a catalog. But that's, I think, primarily for most exhibitions, one reads it after viewing.
It's like a theatrical review.
Absolutely.
I always prefer to read it after the show,
Me
but
too.
sometimes I cheat and read it first. I just want to point out, actually, that in the hall for this exhibition, we have a lot of frames, and they give a historical survey of the different types of frames that we use during this period, because the frame is a very important thing to an artist.
Does the artist determine the frame?
In many cases, he did. You know, there's a show, actually, at the Met of Copley's paintings, and he was the first American, I think, to make his own frames and to sell them.
But he did go back to England, didn't he? He'll go to
He
England.
did, yes. Yes, for
I did see that.
political
Very
reasons.
impressive exhibit, yeah. So why don't we get ready now to talk about some specifics. I know that you brought a lot of illustrations along with you, and the one that you wanted to talk about first kind of sets the tone for everything.
It does.
And we're going to show that while you talk about it. Tell us about it. What is this first one?
The first painting we're looking at is the oldest in the show, if you like. It was done in 1784, and it's called Mrs. David Foreman and Child. And Mrs. David Foreman and Child look very much like a Madonna and the baby Jesus, and that's because it's painted in a Renaissance style. It's painted by Charles Wilson Peale, and he, like most of the artists in the show, went to Europe to study art. He studied with Benjamin West. And when he came back, he did this painting, and at this time he was one of the greatest painters in America. And Mrs. David Foreman becomes emblematic of the ideal 18th century / 19th century women, because she is the spiritual head of the Christian home. She is the ideal mother and wife. She is the perfect breeder and raiser of healthy children, and we know that her child is healthy because he's a fat baby. And fat babies in those days were considered healthy babies.
Now, in this portrait, mother and child, there's a painting on the wall. Is that painting in their home?
No. This woman, like many women who were having their portraits painted in those days, well, there weren't many, but the wealthy went to the artist's studio, and Peale put in the studio the sort of props that were suitable to her station, if you like. There's a very fancy silver work basket. There's a chair that would be imported from Europe. But most importantly, he's put this landscape on the wall. And that was a very deliberate choice, our curator tells us, because although Peale was a multi-talented man, he didn't really regard himself as a landscape artist, but he purposely chose the landscape because it reflected her innocence and her beauty, and also wealthy people were starting to put landscapes high on their walls.
It was interesting to me, George, in that a lot of them are portraits, but not all of them are. Was there a decision by the curator that there are different types of paintings in this, all showing rooms, right?
Some of them happen to have individual people sitting in front. Some of them are families, but they vary. I mean, I don't think the decision of the curator her decision was based on a lot of different factors of scholarship, but some of them are, as we'll see, I think we brought some here that don't have any individuals sitting in them, but I think certainly some of them had to have some people, figures in them. Pat, you may have something to say about that.
Let's take a look at another one now, and see this particular one follows pretty much along the line. It's mother and child, isn't it?
Mother and child again, but done in a very different way and done by a very different artist. It's done by one of the two females in the show, and I'm glad to say we do have two female artists, and her name was Jane Stewart, and she was the daughter of Gilbert Stuart, who painted all those portraits of George Washington. And in fact, Jane Stewart spent a lot of her life after her father died making reproductions of that portrait of George Washington.
Really?
Here she shows a rather uptight style. She's telling him, look, Dad, I can do everything you told me to do, and I can get it right, even down to a little spool of thread. But here again, we have a painting within the painting, and now at last, the landscape has come into the regular home. This isn't a particularly wealthy person. She's probably middle class. And the landscape within the painting shows ruin. So it's a sort of British-type landscape. But Americans at this time, and we're now up to about the 1850s, 60s, Americans are becoming proud of their landscape. They're proud of the wilderness. This is the time of manifest destiny. Artists are finding God in nature. It's that sort of time.
Got a lot of history.
And there's another landscape outside the window.
Yes, I noticed that.
So this is a small painting, but it's really chatting away. You know, we can hear what paintings say by using our eyes. And when we look at that landscape of the city, we realize that people are moving from the country to the city. Why? Because there are lots of jobs. That means the men can make lots of money and the women can go out and spend it decorating their homes.
I do, before we go on and talk about some more of the paintings, I do want to remind our audience that we're talking today about the exhibit at the Katona Museum called At Home with Art, and my guests today are George King, the director of the Katona Museum, and Patricia Grabel, who is the head docent. Now, there was a term that I heard called genre paintings, which are pictures of people, but not necessarily. What exactly is a genre painting?
Well, they're just pictures of everyday life, and they don't really portray any historical significance. In other words, there's not a big, important, significant historical event going on in the painting. It's everyday life. And
people loved them. The masses loved these genre paintings because they were so rich in narrative. They told stories.
We have one here that fits into that category, and it's kind of a portrait, but it isn't a portrait, so it's something going on.
There's something going on.
And what is it that's going on?
Well, the clue is in the painting within the painting, because here we just have a little bit of the painting showing, but it's a romantic landscape, and that ties in with the romantic theme of the painting, which is called Curiosity. And you have these three young girls. One has picked up a man's hat and is putting the gloves away, and that leads us to believe that there's probably a suitor or gentleman caller on the other side of the door.
And what is she doing? She's looking through the keyhole, isn't she?
She's looking through the keyhole, and they're trying to hear what the gentleman is saying to Papa. But it's a very richly furnished house. See, these paintings are so full of detail. The carpet is even worth looking at. The ingrained door, the flock wallpaper.
All of those contribute to that. Before we go on and get into some more of them, this exhibit, which runs through December 31st, has had some special features that have taken place during the month, haven't they?
Well, we've had, like we do with any of our exhibitions, we have a number of different educational programs that add to, I suppose, a broad understanding of the exhibition, and look at, for instance, we've had some trips to other exhibitions, and also we've had some lectures, and we have one lecture left that is taking place on December 3rd, Sunday, December 3rd at 4 o'clock, and Professor Gertz from the City University of New York will be speaking, and he's one of the most preeminent American scholars on American painting, so he's coming up.
Some children's programs. And
we always do children's programs, absolutely.
And you have this wonderful room for children. The
Learning Center, and our children's programs, for the most part, are sponsored by Texaco, who's helped us out in the last few years doing the programs on weekends, and also we have school groups that come on a daily basis from all the schools in Westchester, and also some schools from Fairfield County.
Before we go into more paintings, you do have, when this one is over in January, you do have kind of a special exhibition coming in, and I just want to touch on it. We'll go into more details about this in a future program, but why don't we talk about what it's going to be?
It's called Object as Insight Japanese Buddhist Art and Ritual. It looks, it's another landmark exhibition for us because it includes loans from Japan and from Europe and from important collections in America that will be viewed for the first time together, looking at the objects that were used in the Japanese ritual in the altar hall. And I think that, I know that no show like this has been done in this country before, and it will be traveling to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston after it leaves Katona. And there will be about 75 objects, paintings, including paintings and different other objects as well. So,
again, a landmark exhibit, and is that a constant feeling about at the Katona Museum
I think
we're going to do that?
If we're going to invest the amount of time that we do invest and the amount of money that it takes to do an exhibition today with important loans, we feel that if we're really going to educate our community and have a meaningful project, that it should in some way be unique and provide the community with something that, and the scholarly world and the art world, with an exhibition that either adds to existing scholarship in some way or uncovers new scholarship. But this is all, of course, done with very carefully, with a great deal of research, and we really have a very strong set of criteria by which we stick to when we determine to put an exhibition on at the museum. And I would say for the highest, the most important criteria is the educational value of the exhibition for the schools and also for the community.
One of the things that we want to be sure to do, since we're saying all these wonderful things about the Katona Museum, is to tell people where it's located and when it's open.
Right. It's located off on Route 22, right outside of Katona, and you can get to that from 684 and going on to Route 35, heading towards Connecticut, and make a right onto Route 22, and we're a quarter of a mile down on the left.
Which is my favorite way of getting there.
Yeah, it's the quickest way. We are closed on Mondays, and we're open Tuesday through Friday and Sunday 1 to 5, and we're open on Saturday 10 to 5 with tours that are, as we mentioned earlier, at 2:30.
And a very important thing, for more information, people can call the 914 number.
Right, 914-232-9555, and we have regular office hours from about 8:30 to 6 o'clock.
Let's repeat that telephone
number.
That's
914-232-9555.
And we'll put that telephone number on the closing credit as well.
Good.
Let's get into maybe one more painting if we have time for it. And it's interesting to me when we go to this painting that there are more people in this one, and is this a genre painting or is it a portrait? I don't quite know how to define this one.
It's a bit of a mixture, actually, but it's different from the other ones we've looked at because the thrust here, instead of being on romance, is on history and patriotism. And you see that the men are playing the more active roles, and that tells us something, of course, because men in the Victorian era, meaning basically the 19th century, did play the most important roles. They were the active people, they controlled the business, and they controlled the homes. And in this painting, it's called Old 76 and Young 48. And the young man has just come back from the Mexican War, and he's full of vim and vigor, and he's talking to his grandfather, who was a hero of the Revolutionary War, and he's bowed down both with age and with feelings of nostalgia. He's practically fallen asleep in his wing chair.
And the room itself,
and the room
and the decoration,
and the decoration. They're all of different periods. So you have people from different generations, and a room that is covered or decorated in different styles, and it ties various periods of history together. And there's the painting above the mantel it's hard to decipher, but our curator tells us that it's a copy of a historical painting by John Trumbull of the Declaration of Independence.
We talked earlier about the paintings being by known and unknown artists, and I think I heard you say that they were known in their time but are not known now. What does that mean?
Well, we have, we tend to like different paintings. I think more people today probably are familiar with the Impressionists and with painters of interiors. You know, paintings of interiors are fairly rare in America. They started in Europe way back in the Middle Ages, but in America they only came into being really in the 18th century, and they started to fade from view in about 1850 because of photography. So the people who did them are lesser known. Now, our better-known painters are Peale, whom we've mentioned. We also have a painting, probably by the best-known of the artists, who is Chase. William Merritt Chase. You may have heard of him.
What's the best way to see this exhibit? The best way to start from number one and go around to take an overview?
Yes, or to come when there's a tour at 2:30, as you said earlier. But to go in chronological order is always helpful, but not essential.
I generally like to get an overview first. We were talking about whether you read the catalog before or afterwards. I like to go and get an overview, expose myself to everything that's there, and then look more carefully at those things which attract my attention, and then to read, if I have the time and the inclination, to
take it home and savor it.
to read the
labels
as I go around to see more. But I read a lot of nonfiction books this way too. I'll go through the book, then I'll look through it and read certain portions, and then I may start at the beginning and see that. It seems to me that in any exhibit, this is my feeling, is that you've got to get the feel of it first.
Got to get the feel of it first, that's a good idea. And actually you mentioned something else, because some of these paintings really tie in with the literature of the day. Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. And it was the writers of the day, people like Wharton, people like Eastlake, people like Harriet Spofford, who were the tastemakers. They told people how to decorate their homes, how to hang their paintings, and that sort of thing. Just as we have our magazines today. And
talking about seeing something and seeing it well, one of the things that we always find is that we run out of time, which is, I'm afraid, what we've done here today. And thank you both very much for coming.
Thank you, Norman.
We've had a wonderful tour, but a short tour, of the exhibit at the Katona Museum. It's called At Home with Art. It's a great exhibit. It's at the museum through December 31st. I'm sure you will enjoy it. And I'm Norman Liss, and the name of this program is The Way to Go. And until next time, enjoy yourself.